Hi, we're back to 5.5. This is video B. I didn't want to make the other one as long as, so I cut it in half. So here we go. We just factored this problem and we solved it. Now we're going to do this problem here. Now, because 49x squared is a perfect square root and 9 is a perfect square root and they're separated by a minus sign, this is when those shortcuts come in handy. Now, I know this is actually a difference of squares, so I can just use the shortcut. This is going to be a plus, this is going to be a minus. The square root of 49x squared is 7x. The square root of 9 is 3. Saves you some time factoring this. Now, again, though, you do have to set them both equal to 0, or 7x minus 3 equals 0. And your goal is to find out what x is. So I got to get x by itself, so I'm going to subtract 3. I get 7x equals negative 3. Divide both sides by 7. X equals negative 3/7. Or do the same thing over here. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. I get 7x equals 3. Divide both sides by 7. And then I get x equals 3/7. So you have two factors, and those are the two answers. So I factored, I got two parentheses is what I mean, and then I solved for x, and those were my two answers. All right, let's go to the next one. This problem has some issues. I need to move everything to one side of the equation. So I'm going to move 3x to both sides. I want this equal to 0, okay? Now it's equal to 0. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out an x. So that's going to give me x minus 3 equals 0. Now I'm going to take whatever's on the outside, set it equal to 0, and then whatever's under the in the parentheses, I'm going to set that equal to 0. If this x was like a number, I wouldn't worry about it. But because it's a variable, it's going to be x equals 0 or x minus 3 equals 0. Well, we all know that that's going to end up being 3 because I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So your two answers are x equals 0 or x equals 3. All right, let's move on. Next one. This one, you would think it's ready and finished for you, but it's not. They're tricky. You must distribute this first. So this is going to give you 4x squared. You're going to have to distribute this. This is going to give you 7x. And now you're going to move the 2 over. So I'm going to minus 2 from both sides, which gives me a negative 2. Is everybody okay with that? I distributed the x, and then I minus the 2 from both sides. Kind of did this all in the same step, which I normally don't do, but for some reason it just hit me. I did. Now, they don't share anything. I'm going to have to do the AC method. So here we go. AC method. My A is 4, my C is negative 2. I multiply them together. Negative 8 is my targeted answer. I know that 8 times negative 1 is negative 8. I also know that 8 plus a negative 1 is 7. So those are my two. So you write down the first term, you write down the last term, you put a plus sign in the middle. Okay, now I'm going to put a positive 8, and the variable is x, and this is going to be a negative 1x. I'm going to grab these two together. I'm going to grab these two together. I get 4x. This is going to be x plus 2. This one here, they share a negative 1, and that's going to be an x plus 2. If you don't believe me, negative 1 times x is a negative 1x, and negative 1 times 2 is a negative 2. You can always check it. This one here is going to be x plus 2 because they both share it. So once I factor that out, I'm left with 4x. Once I factor that out, I'm left with negative 1. Now don't forget, set it equal to 0. Now what you need to do is you need to take both of those parentheses and you need to set them equal to 0, or 4x minus 1 equals 0. And now just solve for x. This one's going to be a negative 2, or I'm going to add 1 to both sides. And then I'm going to divide by 4. So x is going to equal 1/4. So those are the two answers. All right, let's go on to the next one. Same thing here. It's not equal to 0. So I'm going to add the 64 to both sides. And I bet you this is going to be a perfect square trinomial. In my head, it just looks like a perfect square trinomial. And I'm going to just try to use a perfect square trinomial to try to solve this. So I have a really sneaky suspicion it's going to look like this. First of all, the sign here is plus. The square root of that is x. The square root of 64 is 8. Let's check it. X times 8 is 8x times 2 is 16x. We're good. Now, because you're going to have two of them, all you really need to do is go x plus 8 equals 0. Because remember, you're going to have two of them. So both answers are going to be -1. Or sorry, -8. Don't even know where I got -1. But they're both will be -8. All righty? Let's do the next one. Because the factors are identical, they both lead to the same solution. It's called a double solution. You know, I never really realized it's called a double solution. I just always assumed it just was -8. No big deal. All right, let's keep moving. All right, solve other equations using the zero factor property. So let's try some other things. All right, what do they want us to use? They are not quadratic equations. Okay, let's just kind of play around with these. Well, first of all, I know that these two here share a 2x. So that's going to give me an x squared minus 25 equals 0. Now, the inside the parentheses, this part right here, this is actually a difference of squares. I can square root this, I can square root this. They're separated by a minus sign. So I know that my answer is going to look like this. So that is why knowing all those special rules, it's really helpful. One's going to be a plus sign, one's going to be a minus sign, because these are difference of squares. The square root of x squared is x. Square root of 25 is 5. Now, because you have to solve this, you have to set all three of them equal to 0. So 2x equals 0, or x plus 5 equals 0, or x minus 5 equals 0. And now you just solve them all. The first one's going to be 0, or x equals -5, or x equals 5. Remember, you just add 5 to both sides here. You subtract 5 from here, and you divide everything by 2, but 0 divided by 2 is just 0. So you have 3 answers for that one. All right, let's go to the next one. You guys, this problem here, do not waste your time and actually multiply this out. Do not. What I'm going to do is this. This is already looking like it's already factored. So I'm not going to touch this right here. But what I am going to do is I'm going to look at this part right here. I'm going to see if I can actually, and that's nothing special. That one is definitely not special. There's nothing special about this. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to try to do the AC method on this part right here. And I'm going to hopefully be able to do this. 2x plus 1 times something equals 0. You guys, I have no clue if this is even doable, but I'm going to try. So I'm going to use the AC method on what's yellow. So my A is 2, my C is -15. That gives you a -30. I need to find two answers when multiplied together that give you -30, but when added give you 7. Oh, let's do this. 10 times -3. That gives you -30. 10 plus -3 gives you 7. Hey, we found it. I did not know what it was. So what you're going to get is this. Remember when you do the AC method, you write down the first term. You write down the last term. You put a plus sign in the middle. I'm going to put a 10x here, and I'm going to put a -3x here. You're going to grab these two together. You're going to grab these two together. These two here share a 2x. That gives me x plus 5. These two here share a -1, and that's going to give you something's wrong. Oh, I know it's wrong. I forgot. I put a -5. That should be a -15. My bad, but I saw it. So I'm like, oh, something's wrong. I forgot to put the 1 there. That's supposed to be a -15, not a -5. So we're good. We're going to keep on going. So this is going to be a negative. Means that they share a 3. Let's go ahead and start fresh. All right. That means that these ones here share a -3. And inside here, all you're going to write down is x plus 5. And you can double check it. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. Well, they both share an x plus 5. So once I factor that out, I'm left with 2x. Once I factor that out, I'm left with a minus 3. So now I'm going to take this, and I'm going to put it in those 2 blank spots. Alrighty. Now, we have 3 parentheses. You have to set each one of those parentheses equal to 0, or x plus 5 equals 0, or 2x minus 3 equals 0. So on the first one, after you do all the math, you should get a negative 1/2. Or do all the math here, you should get a negative 5. Do all the math here, and you should get an x equals 3/2. So you have 3 answers. All right, let's see what the last problem looks like. Okay, here's the last problem. Good heavens to Betsy. Okay. What would be the best way to do this? Well, I could move over this whole thing. This is one way of doing it. It would save us some time. So I'm going to pretend like that is a negative 1. That's not going to work. I don't want to redo the whole thing, but it's looking like, so I'm going to get x minus 1 times 2x minus 1 minus x minus 1. And you guys, in reality, I have 2 of them, right? Equals 0. Oh, I got this. Okay. Now, if you notice, this has in common with this, x minus 1. You guys, this is probably not going to work out, right? So if I take out an x minus 1, out of here, my bad. I don't know if this will go backwards. Oh, maybe it will. If I take out an x minus 1 here, I'm left with 2x minus 1. If I take out an x minus 1 here, I'm not liking this very much. A minus x minus 1. So then I'm left with x minus 1. I'm going to distribute this. That gives me a negative x and a positive 1. The 1's cancel, and I'm left with x equals 0. So x would equal 0, or x minus 1 equals 0, which is 1. Okay, you guys, I believe I did that right. I could have, in reality, I probably should have distributed, like actually multiplied everything and combined like terms and did the whole works. I have 13 minutes, so this is our last problem. I'm just going to actually do the work real fast. I'm going to actually multiply these 2 together. We'll probably get the same answer, but just hang on. That's going to give me 2x squared minus x minus 2x plus 1 equals x squared plus 2x plus 1. I'm going to move all these over here. Minus x squared minus 2x minus 1. I forgot I have to add those together. So I get 2, oops. I'll just do all the math in my head. I get x squared. That's a negative 3x. That's going to give me a negative 5x. Something's weird. And then this is going to be 0. Negative x, negative 2x, gives me negative 3x. Plus that over. Negative 5x. And that's 0. And that would be x And then x minus 5 equals 0. So x equals 0 or x equals 5. And I got 1. So what happened? Almost. All right. So what I did is I actually multiply. I think that's what they want you to do. They want you to multiply this whole thing together, and I did. I got this up here. And then I multiplied these together, and I got this over here. I moved everything over to one side of the equation, and I got 2x squared minus x squared is x squared. I got a negative x plus a negative 2x is a negative 3x, and negative 3x plus a negative 2x is a negative 5x. And then I have this positive 1 plus a negative 1 is 0. And then this side over here is equal to 0. I factored out an x, and I did that, so this would be the right answer. I made a boo-boo over here. All right. I hope you guys have a great night. We just finished them all and looking forward to doing more problems with you. Have a great night, everyone.